Are male lead characters in video games always boring? To me, I think that a male protagonist in a video game does not necessarily mean they're going to be boring, or the story is going to be boring, but it does give room for lazy writing if the developers choose to do so. They are a character archetype in video games that are easy for the traditional target audience to imprint on. You don't have to do much for the mid-30s male gamer to jump into them for. In fact, many argue that the blanker a character is, the better it is for a person to insert themselves into.
That face is called the neutral mask, and it's the face that you, as an audience member, subconsciously want in an action franchise. That face allows you to empathize more strongly with the hero of these big budget blockbusters like Star Wars or Harry Potter or The Matrix. We've got Keanu stone-facedly going through the roller coaster ride so that we can live vicariously through him.
And look up the most successful movie franchises of the last 25 years on Wikipedia. The bulk of them are cartoons or drawings like the Stick Figure Woman, or they're superheroes with the neutral mask like Iron Man, Spider-Man, Batman.
That's not who I am underneath.
Or they're movies like Star Wars, Transformers, The Matrix, Pirates of the Caribbean, Harry Potter, Twilight. Who are the stars of those movies? Not the coolest characters.
They're all neutral masks.
So, in its own way, having a painfully blank and boring lead male character who doesn't go too far outside the bounds of the mundane is good writing for immersion to a certain type of gamer. However, that is not true for all gamers. There are also a large amount of gamers who crave a story that is deeper and more complex, or maybe a story that includes their own life experiences rather than a more general one, or maybe straight male gamers who want to experience a story different than what they are used to. With the rise of indie games in the last 10 years or so, games have been able to tap into markets that AAA games are afraid to do because of potentially smaller numbers. Not just for non-male protagonists, but for survival horror, simulation, life sims, dating sims, and many other genres that the AAA industry assumes to have a little or no interest from gamers. At one point in time, it was believed that having a non-straight male protagonist was too risky. But because of indie games, that risk was taken and proven to be a good selling point to markets that are largely untapped. From my anecdotal observations, usually when the main character and supporting cast are anything other than straight men, the developer is usually trying to say something. There are many different perspectives in the world, and jumping into one that deviates from the industry norm gives a lot of juicy bits that can make your story unique in a sea of good games that are very similar to each other. Even if they don't do anything with their character choice, they are usually choosing to have a more story-based game. This is why I think people tend to associate male protagonists with what they feel is a boring game or a generic game, while people associate a female protagonist with a more story-based game with more depth to it. Gone Home, Life is Strange, Remember Me, and What Remains of Edith Finch are some examples of story-based games that choose to have a non-male protagonist as the lead. The main characters may simply be women and can be seen as boring themselves, but the story surrounding them seems to be more in-depth than a standard AAA warfighter game. Again, this is my opinion, and it's not a fact that you need to feel forced on yourself. Is that always true? Of course not. There are no universal truths when it comes to topics like these. The debate is complex, and there are always exceptions to any point of view. There are of course great straight male characters in my opinion, like Joel from The Last of Us or Simon from Soma. They are dynamic characters who change, develop, and have empathetic yet complex stories. And of course we have the development of Kratos from God of War, from a standard male protagonist into something deeper. However, I find that many male protagonists, even in highly stressful situations, express their emotions in very muted ways.
Isaac, it's me. I wish I could talk to you. I'm sorry.
Patriot. Why are you giving me this?
Jack. Or should I say, Snake. You're a wonderful man. Kill me. Kill me now. Do it. There's only room for one boss and one snake.
In that instant, the glory he had reveled in turned to horror. The image of his two final victims would stay with him for all his days. With that act, Kratos knew he could no longer serve his master. He had but one calling now, the death of Ares. He would murder the god of war.
I'm not coming with you this time.
What?
Most of me is down there. I only held enough back to get you off the ship.
No. That's not... We go together.
It's already done.
I am not leaving you here.
John. I've waited so long to do that.
It was my job to take care of you.
We were supposed to take care of each other. And we did.
Cortana, please.
And a more somber example is from The Witcher 3, where Geralt is literally unable to cry and talks about it. I'm sorry if I say his name wrong. I always say his name wrong. It's not because I don't care. I think he's a great character. I just always say his name wrong.
I can't cry. Don't know how. Vesemir's funeral. We should prepare.
Personally, I think this example touches on the concept of how men are not allowed to cry, even in the worst of times, which is kind of my point. Geralt can't cry because of his mutations, which is probably painful for when he has to go through so many distressing situations through the game. Now, it's not necessarily bad that these examples show a lack of emotion, it's just harder for me to feel these moments. Female protagonists seem to be written to be able to show emotion and pain more easily. Maybe it's because of the world we live in. It is less socially acceptable to be a man who cries or shows fear and pain. I feel like female characters in all media are allowed to cry, show pain, or even be tired from a fight.
That smell!
Rachel! Oh, Rachel, no, please not her!
Chloe.
Rachel, why?
I'm sorry, Chloe. I'm so sorry.
I loved her so much. How can she be dead? What kind of world does this? Who does this?
You have to shoot me, honey.
Lee, no.
It's okay.
Okay, Lee. I can do it. I can.
Remember how to get back there?
Yes.
Our fate, Chloe! Max, you finally came back to me this week, and you did nothing but show me your love and friendship. You made me smile and laugh like I haven't done in years.
Chloe, I can't make this choice.
While male protagonists are usually shown taking the pain with a grimace and showing emotional pain with turning away or being silent. And while that can be relatable to some men, showing emotion can be very powerful. When I look up things like top video game moments that made you cry, Joel's loss of his daughter is at the top. Yes, losing your daughter is hard, but I think the thing that makes people really feel it was seeing a masculine man break down and cry.
Sarah. Move your hands, babe. I know, baby, I know. God. Listen to me. I know this hurts, baby. You're gonna be okay, baby. Stay with me. All right, I'm gonna pick you up. I know, baby. I know it hurts. Come on, baby. Please. I know, baby. I know. Sarah. Baby. Don't do this to me, baby. Don't do this to me, baby. Come on. No. 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 Please. 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 Please don't do this. Please.
This is so rare to see in any form of media, and it's sad that men are not allowed to cry like this on a more regular basis. The impact of this scene is powerful because of Joel's emotional response. He actually cries, and that makes the player feel for him. Just saying things are happening is not the thing that makes the audience sad. It's the delivery of the news that matters. When we look at muted male characters reacting to tragedy, it's hard to feel it. But when Joel, or female characters, react emotionally, it is a much more impacting moment. And one viewer pointed out when filming this scene, Troy Baker, Joel's voice and face actor, was told to not be as emotional, which can be an indication of people's discomfort with a man being emotional.
You know, I started recalling all those memories and started pulling up all those feelings, and they're just right underneath the surface. When I walked back in, everyone realized that something was different. They kind of like calmed down.
You could feel the energy just like drop a little bit more.
It was brutal.
I lose my shit. I mean, just completely break down.
Don't do this, please, God, no. Oh, God, no.
Then 2 weeks later, he calls me. And he says, so we need to reshoot a scene. I'm like, cool, what scene are we doing? And he just looks at me. I said, dude, don't do this to me. And then he started talking me through the scene. He's like, what I need you to do is I need you to just strip yourself of all these ideas. And I need you to hit this beat, and this beat, and this beat, and this beat, which just makes it sound so mechanical, and it's such an emotional scene. So we start going through it, and literally I am mindlessly doing these things at this point.
Okay. I know it hurts, baby. I know. So I'm gonna lift you up. I'm gonna get you over here. Come on, baby. Come on, work with me, please. God, baby. Sarah. Sarah!
And I realized that the reason why I wanted that first take to work was because I wanted everyone to look at me and go, wow, what an actor. And that's not what the scene needed.
Those moments where you just have to sort of calm your ego down and just go back and do your work.
And the characters that surround the main protagonist still matter too. I was speaking to Todd, the editor of Hardcore Gaming, and his perspective was very insightful. He felt that straight male characters are effective in stories that are not about them. For example, Warren from Life is Strange gave a really good example of how straight men play into a woman's queer experience. Warren is by no means a bad guy and is actually a really cool friend to Max even when he's rejected romantically, which makes him a good person. However, his actions in assuming his status with Max as a romantic possibility can be seen as a typical experience for non-straight girls and their interactions with male friends who have crushes on them. And here's another male opinion about male protagonists by DreamCastGuy.
Hey there everyone, I'm DreamCastGuy, and I've been asked to give a male perspective on this video topic because it's such an interesting thing to dig into. At this point, I have beaten thousands of different games because I've been playing stuff ever since I could first pick up a controller, but I have noticed that even the best adventures sometimes have very flat and uninteresting heroes at the center of it. But sometimes this can make the fun a little bit more sharp. An example of this, I think, is Castlevainia. Now, each one of these definitely has a clear hero, but it's not really important. While they do have a backstory and there is some deep lore, all that really matters is beating Dracula and going into creepy castles and finding your own path to victory. And I think that makes it where we end up enjoying Castlevainia more because the main character isn't necessarily the man with the whip so much as it is the evil monsters that are in our path. Another game that has a really boring male protagonist, but I absolutely love, is Shenmue. Now this is a game I've finished several times over the years, but I've really started to go back and reflect on it recently, and I noticed that Ryo as a protagonist is quite strange because he has almost no emotion when he speaks. Despite the fact that he just watched his own father be brutally murdered with his bare hands in front of him, he doesn't seem like he's too terribly shocked. And I think that this is a very purposeful motion by the developers. The voice actor says that they were directed to have a very muted style of emotion in all their delivery, which makes it where, as you're going through this really hectic tale of revenge, instead of seeing it as Ryo managing to finally kill his evil rival Londi, it's us, putting on his jacket and walking down that path as him. To switch things up a little bit though and talk about the very bad side of boring protagonists, let's dive into Gears of War, a trilogy that was at its start very interesting because it laid out a new planet, a new bad guy, and a new reason to shoot stuff, but the characters at the center of this tale are so boring and so lifeless they almost seem like gorillas with machine guns and paper masks on with a big frowny face, and that makes it almost distracting because I want a little bit of motivation at the heart of a tale like this. If I'm saving the world, I'd like at least somewhat to know why. Another game that does this that is so horrible in my opinion is Watch Dogs. Being able to hack anything and drive anywhere seems like it would open up the doors of infinite possibilities of storytelling and narrative, but they let us fill the shoes of a character who is so poorly done that you end up just walking around the city wondering why you are here. As a guy playing games, I think that we're better able to project ourselves into flat characters at times because we're at least able to try and slide into the situation and pretend that we ourselves are the hero, even if the game doesn't want us to do that. But when it comes to characters that are just so poorly done that you are distracted by it, then I think that anybody, male or female, is going to see that this is nothing but a giant detriment.
So, I really hope I gave a well-rounded explanation on male protagonists in video games. We had male and female perspectives on what holds male game characters back and what makes them strong. A male protagonist is an indicator that a story will more likely be about action and a tough guy fulfillment, while a non-male protagonist is an indication of a game that will be more focused on story and characters. There are no hard rules. The reason why people choose to have women at the front of more emotional stories is that we allow women to be more emotional and vulnerable. And that sucks for men who feel feelings just as deeply as women do. Thank you for watching, and thank you to all the patrons and PayPal donators who make videos like these financially sustainable. If you would like to, please follow me on Twitter or Tumblr, and follow me on Twitch because I stream every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 3 p.m. US Central.